This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on XZBN and our growing family of broadcast affiliates and satellite network programming providers. If you'd like to give us a call, 800-610-7035, email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Here's a question that I'd like to ask you, X-Zone Nation. Is it possible? Can we become an ununited states in our lifetime? Well, my guest this hour is a gentleman by the name of David T. Richards. He's a historian, and he says ignorance of our history threatens our democracy. Now, many acknowledge that George Washington was our greatest founding father because of his leadership in defeating the British, the gravitas he provided during the Constitutional Convention, and the fact that he relinquished his power after serving 2 terms as president. Now, few Americans, however, are unaware that as Commander-in-Chief, Washington also halted a budding army insurrection, a potential coup that would likely have strangled the new republic. And this is a quote from my guest this hour. It's referred to as the Newburgh Conspiracy, named for an anonymous letter originated in Newburgh, New York, that was circulating through Washington's army in the Hudson Highlands. And this is David Richards, who is the author of Swords in Their Hands, George Washington and the Newburgh Conspiracy. And his website is www.swordsintheirhands.com. And David, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
Wow. You know, this is something that a lot of people are unaware of, and I know when I talked to my colleagues today earlier when I got the information on this segment, it's like, could this have really happened? And in fact, we did a show a couple of weeks ago where the possibility, not by insurrection, but the ununited states can be and is possible. Why don't we learn from history?
Well, I think we don't learn from history because we have very short memories. Very often people only remember what happened recently. They don't have a strong interest in history. If they do, they only have an interest in history when it relates to something that's happening today. For example, the Russia-Ukraine situation is in the news a lot, so occasionally you hear people compare Putin's seizure of the Crimea with Hitler's seizure of the Sudetenland, and they mention how that really was what led up to the World War. Of course, there also was the Anschluss when he went into Austria, and much more than that, the invasion of Poland. But I think that's the basic problem. People have short-term memories, and they only relate to history when something in the news forces them to do so.
So would you say, as a person who studies history, that there are similarities or between what we're seeing today and what actually happened in 1782?
Well, there certainly are some similarities. Let's look at those similarities. We have a huge national debt today. Near the end of the Revolutionary War, there was a big public debt. Near the end of the Revolutionary War, Congress was very divided. On the one side, you had nationalists who wanted Congress to have broad taxation authority. On the other side, you had members who were always crying out for state sovereignty. They didn't want to give Congress any taxation authority. They wanted the state legislatures to control the purse strings. And near the end of the Revolutionary War, George Washington's army was neglected. It was not being paid. Today, we have members of our armed forces who are receiving so little pay that they have to go on food stamps to support their families.
Wow.
And, as you've probably noticed, the VA medical center scandals are in the news a lot lately. So, sure, there are definitely some very noticeable similarities.
David, you and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. And Exonation, my guest this hour is David T. Richards. And he's the author of, now I want you to write this down. He's the author of Swords in Their Hands, George Washington and the Newburgh Conspiracy. His website is www.swordsintheirhands.com. Once again, the name of the book is Swords in Their Hands, George Washington and the Newburgh Conspiracy. And Dave's website is www.swordsintheirhands.com. And David T. Richards and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, a guiding light spelled LITE.com to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Explanation. My question for you this hour is: could the United States become an un-United States in our lifetime? My guest this hour is David T. Richards. He's the author of Swords in Their Hands, George Washington and the Newburgh Conspiracy. His website is www.swordsintheirhands.com. Let me ask you this question. What would happen, or what would we see before the formation of an un-United States?
I think we would see even more secessionist movements throughout the United States and much more disharmony between the various states.
Okay,
I know the secessionist movements get a lot of attention now, but we don't see secessionist movements, as far as I know, in all the states, mostly in Colorado, Texas, and Southern California. You hear about them, but there are some states where I don't think there are any secessionist movements at this time.
But how would the government handle this? Would they just say, okay, you want to secede, there you go, goodbye?
Well, I don't think they would want to see that for sure. Something like that could possibly cause another civil war. Near the end of the Revolutionary War, actually, George Washington was very concerned that we would see a Revolutionary War. He felt that if his army did revolt, the national government would fall in chaos and even a civil war might ensue. And he wasn't the only one who had that opinion. Alexander Hamilton had that opinion. Some of his top generals had that opinion. Other delegates had that opinion. Secession, people think that it would happen without any bloodshed, but as we know from the Civil War, that's definitely not the case. Also, people don't realize how much the federal government does for them. Sure, it causes problems very, very often, but there are a lot of things that people take for granted. And I just don't think it'd be an easy thing to accomplish. I think there'd be some type of civil war if we had that happen.
As a historian, or someone who obviously loves history and wants to make sense of what's going on today and how it relates to yesterday and how we can preserve what we have and better it, what do you think would be the catalyst for the total un-United States coming to pass?
That's a real difficult question to answer. I think probably you would have to see both Democrats and Republicans among the general population hate their government. Right now you see disagreements between the two parties, but there are things that we all can agree upon. For example, this VA medical center problem. Certainly, I think Democrats and Republicans all want to see their vets treated well.
Of course.
I think also, although you see a difference in opinion on how to handle the national debt, I think both sides agree that it is a problem and it has to be solved somehow. They just don't agree on how that can be done. On the one hand, you have Democrats who probably prefer to see huge defense cuts. On the other hand, you have Republicans who would like to see less entitlement spending. I think you'd have to see almost near unanimity among people within our population on the government's ineffectiveness and disregard for them and their state legislatures. Now, like I said, there are issues that we can agree on. The big divider right now seems to be Obamacare. There's a real division among people on Obamacare.